Welcome. I'm Danielle Sally.
And I'm Eva Fusa.
And you're listening to Ghost Boss, stories about the freelance afterlife. Hey, Ghosties.
Hey.
We're back for part 2 of our interview with Meena.
That's right. So normally we give you like 2 to 10 minutes of us just kind of rambling.
Telling you about our day.
Usually about heartburn and coffee.
That's fine.
But this time we're just going to jump right back into where we left off.
Enjoy.
Thanks.
Yeah. And this is the thing. So, oftentimes we hear of these students who come to us and they're like, wow, I wish I knew design was a thing.
Yeah.
I wish I knew design was here. And I do want to just make a plug really quick. There are people out there who are trying to bring design into the K through 12 space. It is happening.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Jacinda Walker in Cleveland, they have this program called Design Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
And they come into your classroom, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in Cleveland. She comes anywhere, and she has these kits, and she gets the kids working on a design project.
Mm-hmm.
And the only requirement is that, well, there are a few requirements, but one of the requirements is that if you're a designer and you wanna help, you may not talk. Because what the designers tend to do is tell the kids how to design.
That's hard.
Instead
I see
of
what you're
letting
saying.
the kids actually figure out.
I thought you meant the kids couldn't talk. I'm like, listen,
At first,
listen.
wait,
I know most creatives are little introverts and y'all like to hide in your corner, but some of us are extroverts and we need to talk.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
No, the designers, if you're a practicing designer and you want to come in, she's like super all about it, but you're like,
Don't
and I've
tell them
had
what
this
to do.
conversation with her, and she's like, "No, you're not allowed to talk.
Yeah.
No, don't go correcting anybody."
Can I gesture wildly? I'm good at that.
I don't know if I can be in the room.
Exactly.
I'm just like.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but they're always really incredible programs, and she was even doing them through quarantine and COVID. I mean,
wow.
she's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's important because there's now kids in middle school and high school, they're having them pick their majors so early, which I think part of me feels like it's too early to ask you. I wanted to be an oceanographer.
Yeah. I mean,
much biology. Hard pass.
I think we shared whatever the testing was. I was definitely supposed to be in a science related
That's
field.
what I'm saying. But then it's
Can you
funny
imagine?
because they have students pick so early now. And part of me is like, that is good to get them exposure. I don't like marrying them to like a career path so early.
Yeah.
Because you knew at 15 that you didn't know it was a designer, but you knew at 15 you wanted to be a designer. I knew at 15 that I wanted to be a designer. You were roughly the same age, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I tell people that now as an adult, everybody says the same thing. That was so young, and you're so fortunate that you stuck with a path that you picked as a teenager.
Right.
So I'm like, what are we doing if we're asking 10-year-olds? And now like millennials are expected to change our career paths. Not us in this room, clearly, but most are expected to completely change career paths at least 4 times in their lifetime.
Wow.
Like not just like, oh, I was a practicing designer and now I'm a professor, like as an example, or the other way around. No, like I was a designer and now I'm going to like be an accountant.
Well, so funny enough, that's what I was supposed to be.
An accountant?
Test, I was supposed to be an accountant.
I talk a lot of junk about accountants on this podcast because any day I'm grumpy, I'm like, well, at least I'm not an accountant.
I got an email from a recruiter today asking me or if I wanted to apply for a CPA job.
Oh my God, I got the same one last week on LinkedIn.
You are not a good recruiter.
Yeah. Somebody asked me
this email
if I wanted to be a CPA. Somebody asked me if I wanted to sell health insurance, and somebody asked me if I wanted to be a real estate agent. I was like, do you not?
If I get one more email too about if I want to buy brandingcarolina.com, I don't.
I'm good. I'm good. Okay. So we've gotten, I wouldn't say we're off topic.
We're not off.
We're here. We're wandering in the woods.
We're meandering.
And it's
like that.
Delightful.
Yes.
But let's get back to you and your experience as a professor and a professor teaching all the future creatives in the world. They are
no pressure.
They are creatives now. You were born a creative.
Yes.
You're credentialed by formality, in my opinion.
Yes.
But I would love to hear about how do you balance academic theory with real world application in your teaching?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
And a really a heady one, I feel like, too.
Yeah. It feels like a cool one that we can't ask every guest.
Okay, fair point. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to take it. So, in almost all of my classes, every single one of my classes, there is at least one point where we have a client. There's
cool.
at least one
Love
point.
that.
Love that.
So this semester, I'm not sure when this rolls out, but I'm pretty sure my students will have already gotten this project by the time this rolls out. So
couple weeks.
yeah, okay. Then we'll be thick in the middle of it.
Okay.
So this semester, my students in Interaction are creating an augmented reality scavenger hunt at the Columbia Museum of Art.
Oh, fun!
Very cool.
So, okay, what does that mean? I mean,
my brain's going in 1,000 directions hearing
so
that.
many ideas.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where the theory comes in, right?
Sure.
That's where the theory comes in. And we're already working with a client. So that's where the application comes in.
Cool.
Sure.
So the students have to come up with, they don't know this yet, but they're going to have to come up with the
Are they going to know this by the time this airs?
Yes,
okay, wonderful.
They're going to know by Monday.
We're great. I'm not editing this weekend.
The way that I'm going to tell them about this project is they're going to get to the classroom and I'm not going to be there, and they're going to have a scavenger hunt
to
with
find
their
you.
phones. Augmented reality scavenger hunt.
To find you though?
To find me to learn about the project. Yeah. So they are going to have to find me in the exact same way that they will have to do it. Because I think that when you come to a group of 22 students and you say, okay, you're going to create an augmented reality scavenger hunt and you do have a client, we're going to meet with them on the 16th and we're going to learn about the assets and yada, yada, yada. They're probably going to be like, what?
Yeah.
I've never done this.
That's
I'm
okay.
freaked
It
out.
might be
That's
really
okay.
overwhelming.
But also, please tell them that I've never done this. I'm freaking out is a normal feeling that we all experience.
I will.
All
like
the
literally,
time.
I experienced that yesterday.
Right.
As a professional who's been doing this for 20 years.
Right. So I will tell them that.
Yeah.
And I love reminding them of their humanity.
Yes.
Like, listen, you're probably sitting there like freaking out, but
You're doing great.
I promise I remember what that's like.
Yeah,
Let me tell you about the bridge that's going to get you to the better place. Right.
Yes.
So, that's one way, right? We have this very creative application of augmented reality. The content is creative, but it's also learned content. It's also established content. We're talking about fine art. We're talking about like things that have creators, that have dates, that have bios and abouts and like all sorts of things that belong to that artwork. And then we get to play. And playing is such an important part of every single project that we do, especially when it comes to the client side. Because if I can mimic a way for a student to come to a client that is unique and that has just a different, more pleasant spin to it, and they deliver, that's a client you might have for life. You certainly are going to get a good referral from that client.
Sure,
absolutely.
Right? So we want to surprise, we want to delight, right? And we also want to have fun while we're doing it. So that's one way that I do this. But another way is like next semester, I'm teaching a course called Process and Systems for Emergent Design. And
sounds so fancy. What does that mean?
It's super fancy. It means that we're pulling back the curtain on AI in this class and using it for every project.
Sure.
From soup to nuts. And it's about 16 students that are going to be in this class, but we're also going to have a workshop hosted by Helen Armstrong, who is from NC State, and she's like the go-to AI design person. She's written a great book called Big Data, Big Design, and most AI books have already been eclipsed. They were written in April, and they've already the knowledge.
Absolutely.
But the way that she talks about it, and she really has a lot of good case studies, a lot of critical thinking in there, where she's talking about how to discover ways to use these processes. The way she talks about it is in a way that's really, I dare to say evergreen. I feel like it's hard to say that about such a technology, but she's coming at it from a really a more solid, grounded place
And
than
are
just
professionals allowed to sit in the background?
Actually, yes.
Can we
figure out?
We won't talk. You told us we can't talk. We won't talk.
These aren't K through 12. These are.
She'll have no problem not talking.
Listen,
you're gonna have to duct tape my mouth.
You said a second ago that like you were going to hide and your students have to find you. I'm like, that would be my ideal way of teaching. Like, come find me.
Oh my gosh. So no, what I want to say is that Helen will be doing a public talk too.
Oh, wonderful.
So people will know about it for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Love that.
And yes, you must come. It will be great. She's amazing. She's a great mentor to have too.
Cool.
Awesome.
So I want to go a little bit off the list that we aren't even paying attention to.
We're not doing the list.
We've given up on the list.
I'm going to keep this part in too. We wrote, Danielle wrote, and then I edited, and then I sent to you. But there's like 10 questions, and we've talked about 2.
That's okay.
3.
But I was very, very happy when I heard you have an actual client and you're learning like real world stuff.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of times, sometimes when students go into the real world, there's a lot of shock factor involved, especially with the speed in which things have to get done. And we've talked about this before on previous episodes. What do you feel like, maybe outside of that you feel like students come back and they're like, I was not prepared for this, or I'm not prepared for that. And that kind of shocked them and they didn't realize it until they finally got that first real world job?
I host a few panels of alumni for my capstone course. And you guys are now going to come and talk to that.
You know, I like talking to your.
Yes,
Is it okay if I'm not alumni?
Yeah. I took one of them to lunch a couple weeks ago.
It is not for alumni only.
No, good. I was like, will you take SCAD alumni?
Yes, we will happily.
I will join.
But I also I've hosted panels of a recent alum to talk about their experience in their first year out of college, or their second or third. After their third, who cares? No, I'm just kidding.
After that, you're old.
You've got it.
You're old and jaded.
That's right. You're probably just grumpy and trying to figure out Figma. Like, what are we doing?
Why didn't they teach me this? No.
It didn't exist then.
So the question was,
what do you feel like students are most like not prepared for?
Other than the speed thing is the thing we talk about all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it's true. And, actually I more often hear students saying, they come to me with like the good news.
Oh, good.
That's usually what I hear. In the panels, though, they tell each other about the speed thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So my students, they don't come to me and they aren't like, man, I wasn't ready for that. That was like a shock to the head, man. they don't do that. Rather, they're like, man, I taught them how to use Figma. I'm so glad you taught me how to, how to do X, Y, and Z. But they tell each other, and they're really, they are such a great community for each other too. So when I started at the design program here, that was probably the first thing that we wanted to make sure that we did was like scaffold the community of students and try and do that for years and years and years. So that is happening. The students have created a club, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like the most wonderful, heartwarming thing, because you're like, yes, this is actually how you get things done.
Love it.
You create the community, you fund the community, you become little entrepreneurs, and you go out there and you do the thing.
Yeah.
That is how you get it done. You let people know that you're here. But I think when it comes to the speed of things, in my classes, we take parts of projects and we sort of chunk them into milestones. And I think about that in terms of training wheels. And I'm like, listen, if you do this once and we walk through it pace by pace, then when you have to do this real quick, you like muscle memory is going to kick in. And so that's always the hope. It seems to be working, but that's always the hope, is that's how that works for these students.
Yeah. And some stuff you can't you can't prepare for.
There was a lot. There's no preparing.
They just don't. Yeah, you just don't know. And that's and as somebody who was more than one person's like first boss, like I was like, I am an extension of their education, right? Like I'm not a professor, but like I'm taking the reins from here.
That's right.
And helping them with a lot of stuff.
That is so true. You are an extension of their teaching. And I just want to underscore that you said that again. That is such an important point, that the way that they see design and the way that they see themselves in the field, it extends to their interactions with people who are in the field. Right. And you actually become and I say in the industry or in the field as opposed to the real world, because sometimes I
like that delineation.
Yeah,
I like that language.
It feels like, if I'm paying thousands of dollars to sit in a class and to do this work, I don't want to feel like that money's real. Like this is my real world before I go out there. So to talk about, their time spent learning and then their time spent in industry in that way, they see like the two of you in this like sort of like these pillars of knowledge and work reward. Like this is what you can be. And
if they only knew.
And that's so important.
But that's what, I mean, like I've come to speak to your students and I've talked to 70 students too. And I've had personal interactions with several of them as well. And I tell them all the things that I wish somebody had told me. And some of it's the not sexy stuff, right? Like some of it is like, yes, 80% of full-time employed designers work in-house. Like I know everybody wants to work and that's great. Agency work is awesome. Most of us at least are in-house at some point. And then sometimes I'll get, I want to work fast paced. I'm like, oh, don't you worry. Yeah. Somebody in-house will still ask you to flip a logo in 4 days. Don't you worry.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't you worry.
The whole 4 days.
I know, right? How many concepts did you have to come up with? Just one?
Yeah. And the other part of that is when you think about, first generation college student, second generation Iranian American, female, all of these things, these are the things that make us unique. And these are the things that also become barriers for us. And when we're talking about getting into a field that even though 85% of my classroom is female, the field itself is still predominantly white male dominated. I'm married to a white male. Listen, it's fine. I love white men. I'm just saying,
but they're still dominant.
They are everywhere.
Do you not have enough white men?
You won the lottery
on boats 500 years ago. So you're still on top. What are we doing?
So, what my point is, like, when these students walk into an agency or they walk into an in-house design firm or area, they are not doing it for the first time as an intern or an employee.
Right.
They do it with me or with Stephanie or with Marius or with Brent. They were going to do that with one of us because the first time they walk in there, they're going to be a little culture shock. Yeah, they're going to be like,
for sure.
Okay, this is what it's like. So either they're going to love it or they're going to hate it. And when they decide what they love or they hate, they shouldn't be on the payroll in that moment. They should be able to see it from the outside in and on the inside.
Yeah.
So the first time they walk in, is with us either in the capstone or in another class. And that again breaks down that barrier between most of us think, how am I ever going to get there?
You're right.
Well, now you're standing in it.
You're all going to, we're going to get there.
Exactly.
We're all going to get there. It helps when you have cool glasses. I'm not going to lie.
Bring it back.
I'm not going to lie. So I thought about this morning. It wasn't the original plan, but now I want to ask every guest on this podcast what their star chart is.
Well, and I'm going to tell you what, Eva started telling me yours.
Oh yeah. I was texting her this morning at drop off.
This is gonna.
So let's all share. I'm gonna share mine first because then y'all are gonna sass off, and I can already see it. So I am a Sun Pisces.
Yes.
A March Pisces. It's a very important delineation.
That actually
is. It is very important. My moon sign is a Capricorn. So the earth sign kind of brings down the water sign.
Capricorn's one I don't know much about.
So one of the hallmarks of Capricorns is that they manage their emotions around making responsibility primary.
Okay.
So as a water sign, yes, I'm a very pragmatic person. I got a lot of feels, but I can put them away and have my main character moment later if I need to.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I know. But my rising sign is a Sagittarius, which is why I'm so sassy when you meet
fire.
me. Yeah, it's my fire.
There's your fire.
But I am not a fire sign in my core.
Well, I very much am because I already told Eva that she has to edit out the part where I yelled at her for the first time ever.
Yes.
So
y'all unpack. Go ahead.
My sun sign is Aries. My rising sign's a Leo. Which is why
Is that another fire?
Yes. And I think it's why people assume I'm an extrovert, but I'm not.
You're just real sassy.
It's that. And then this is the great part. And I know you're going to relate.
What's your moon sign?
Moon sign's Taurus.
Oh.
So now what are you, Meena?
All right. So I'm cuspy, but I'm technically sun sign Taurus. And I am a rising.
So wait, are you an April Taurus?
I'm an April Taurus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
April cuspy. So
you just barely
21st.
scooted out of the April Aries?
Yeah.
Just barely?
Just barely scooted out of the
You
April
are
Aries.
lucky.
But so often I feel the Aries. I'm like,
I think I texted you the wrong thing because I thought you said April Aries. So you said you barely missed April Aries.
I'm an April Taurus. Yeah.
Okay.
So I misquoted.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So April
I was like, she didn't
Taurus.
seem crazy.
Oh, just you wait. I've been out with her a couple times. Those tracks.
Not enough.
No.
So, okay. And so then I'm trying to make sure I have this right as I say it.
Yes.
So my rising sign is Sagittarius and then my moon sign is Cancer.
Okay, nice.
Oh, so you have a water moon sign.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Sagittarius, I will cut a bitch.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say bitch?
She doesn't let me cuss on the podcast.
Listen, it was because our kids listen. I'm okay.
Oh, no,
we can bleep that.
No, let's
Please
just
bleep me.
Meena has our first curse word.
Oh,
look at you.
dear.
Somebody
My
first. My daughter just turned
Feels
10,
right.
so she's going to hear things.
So that's me.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think we like to wear things that sort of show. I'm wearing like my L for my daughter and then my Taurus.
This is my
sign.
mom got this. It's just like it's 8 different symbols for luck.
Aww.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the day that I don't have my necklace on. I
I
took
was
it off.
put it on you.
Danielle was supposed to put it back on me. I took it off yesterday.
I was supposed to dress you.
But I have long nails, and so I can't get it back on by myself. But I'll share what it is.
Okay.
It's a little cable car. It's the first piece of jewelry my dad bought my mom when they were dating. He bought it from a street vendor outside of his office in San Francisco in like 1978 or 79. And she gave it to me on my 35th birthday.
Love.
I never take it off except for yesterday.
Yeah.
And now I can't get it back on.
Oh, no.
Because these are made for looks, not function.
Well, mine's just a magnet.
Look at genius.
See, I have the original chain.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
That's more important than a magnet.
No, I'll make you fix it at the end of this.
Good.
But no, I find zodiac stuff, I find it interesting.
I
don't live and die by it, but I find it
same.
interesting.
No, I like my last job. We kept taking all these personality tests, and it's fine.
Well,
I learned I'm a chameleon. It's cool.
Somebody told me Myers-Briggs is just the horoscope of the business world.
Yes.
This is what I care.
ENFJ?
Yes.
What?
That is the,
You know what's funny?
out of all the types, it's the second least common.
My sister was listening to the podcast where you shared that, and she said she is also.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I don't meet ENFJs.
Because they're not very common. Do you know what our power animal is? Do you remember?
No, I forget.
It's a lion.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it is.
But I swear we need to have learn about zodiac signs, not personality tests. Okay.
Well, I also find birth order interesting. Did you mention you're a youngest daughter?
I am the youngest.
So all of my closest female friends are youngest daughters, and I'm
you
the
like
oldest
bossing
daughter.
us around.
Because I'm bossy pants. Yeah, no, it is.
So
we vibe.
My partner is he was the oldest in his household. He has an older brother.
I don't count my 3 older siblings that I didn't grow up with.
Yeah,
I'm the oldest of who I grew up with. Yes.
Okay, so he's the oldest, and I think that you often pair with it.
Yeah,
it just goes.
Yeah,
it goes well.
Yeah. I was raised by 2 oldists, an oldest fire sign and an oldest earth sign.
Oh.
And then they had an oldest water sign. And then I have a younger brother who's also a fire sign. He's an April Aries. Let me tell you, this March Pisces oldest sister was real judgy pants.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening?
Oh, man. So my daughter is a Cancer.
My son's a Taurus.
And my daughter is a Libra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking at me, you're like, oh, yeah, let's talk.
The Cancer emotion.
Yeah.
Moving from one thing to the next at the flip of a switch, and they're 6 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like every day, every morning. I'm not sure. Is it tears? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. It's partially because not only are they a water sign, but they are the cardinal water sign. So do you know about cardinal fixed and mutable?
Told me about this last time.
I actually find really interesting.
Yeah, this was.
All right. So within each of the elements, you have a cardinal sign, a fixed sign, and a mutable sign. This is the analogy that is kind of commonly used. If you were having a dinner party, the cardinal sign, so Cancer is the cardinal sign of the water signs. I'm the mutable sign. I'm at the end. Scorpio is the fixed sign in the middle. I know the most about the waters because that's what I am. So the cardinal sign is going to pick the date for the dinner party, decide the theme, the menu, the guest list, send out the invitation. I think you're a cardinal sign, right? Aries is a cardinal sign.
I'll plan.
They plan. They put it all together. Your fixed signs, they're going to make dinner. They're going to set the table. They're going to make sure we have enough lemons for the centerpiece. They're going to put the chairs out. They're going to do all that stuff. Your fixed signs will often take on larger workloads, but it's like more sequential. Like they just want to know how it's mapped out and like where it's going to go. I'm a mutable sign. The mutable sign is who greets you at the door, gets you a glass of wine, sits you down at the table, figures out what to do when somebody shows up with a guest that they didn't account for and we don't have enough lemons for the centerpiece. Right. So I'm a water mutable sign, but your little is the water cardinal sign.
Yes.
So like lots of feels, want to start a lot of stuff, want to move around.
Yes.
I want to take a step back and put all the details together.
Okay.
Fascinating.
This
Cool. I mean, I think it's a lot more interesting and drills down a little bit more than just like earth, air, fire, water.
I need to learn more. This
Right?
is what I'm
So
going to
Taurus is a fixed sign.
Yeah. Okay.
They're like the worker
So you're
bees.
the lemons.
I'm the lemon.
Hey, so all together we could have a good party.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cardinal fire.
Yeah.
Oof, gosh, your ideas, they're going to be a lot.
Woohoo.
But I will get it done.
Yeah. And
I will
like
get it
earth
done.
fixed,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Grounded.
you'll greet the.
And then I'll pull it all together at the end.
we'll have a
y'all
little
are fine.
ghost boss party.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here
But
for it.
I think it's cool. And then I find it interesting because I tend to like really vibe with other water signs and with fire signs. Like people who are a lot like me or people who are nothing like me and anybody in between. I'm like, okay,
You're here.
I'm like, that's fine. No offense to the Taurus, but you said you got a lot of Aries vibes.
Yeah,
you got a lot of Aries
I have
vibes.
a lot of Aries, yeah.
But then when I started looking into like cardinal, fixed, or mutable, it started like, it makes a little bit of like a similar, because the only mutable sign that I'm close to is a fire mutable sign.
I feel so like, I know so much now.
It's a lot to unpack.
The professor is learning.
Every day. Yes.
I just find that stuff interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah.
So we did great. Out of our list, I think we picked 2.
3. I think we did 3. No,
maybe
2. We only did 2. We're doing fine.
We didn't talk about the Drawn Daily project, but
Oh yeah.
we need
plug
to
that. Talk about that.
We need to. Okay.
Yeah, please do.
I just realized, like, if
No, we
there's
need to.
something. Okay.
No, yeah.
Soda City that you wanted. So okay. So when we moved here from Louisville, and we took the positions at USC. The moving truck. Well, it totaled. It lost all of our stuff.
Oh, no.
Oh God.
Like, people were fine. But all of our stuff was all over the highway. We had nothing when we moved here, and we had like an infant, and they had no crib or anything. And also we had a dog at the time, and we moved here and we just had nothing.
Yeah.
And all of these people, we moved into our neighborhood, and all these people from our neighborhood, and you guys know our neighborhood, it's like so giving. I mean,
oh yeah.
People just sort of came out and they were like, hey, we saw the broken stuff on your lawn and we put 2 together.
Yeah.
Here are some groceries.
Oh, that's so
We baked
sweet.
you a pie, you know, all of these things. And of course, this happened 6 months before the pandemic.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, here we are, and we're realizing that the place that we came to was a really beautiful, generous place. And we sort of stumbled into Columbia, and the truck sort of crashed into Columbia. And here we were, and I just remember thinking, on the heels of a project that I did in Louisville called New and Lou 365, I was drawing somewhere in Louisville every day for an entire year. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring that here to Columbia. I'm going to do a 100-day project, and I'm going to draw somewhere in Columbia every day, just for 100 days.
Just 100 days.
Just 100.
Just 100. Year. So why not?
Just 100.
So I did that. I started almost that week. And it took me through up to Christmas, and that project got me to learn all about the small businesses here in Columbia and around Columbia. So I got to meet lots of people, and when we did shut down in the pandemic, and I remember the Warmouth in particular, Porter had put out a sort of like an AP, or really an APB, essentially saying we're going to have to shut down, guys, because we can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm not tooting my own horn here. I'm just saying, like, I realized in that moment, oh my gosh, people buy my prints,
right?
And they're like prints of these businesses,
right?
I should start selling these prints for these businesses.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. And during quarantine was able to raise some money and give, put a drop in the bucket, basically, to a bunch of small businesses, because my dad owned restaurants.
Right.
And I cannot imagine what it would have been like for him during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard enough. It's hard enough owning a small business.
Sure.
Hard enough owning a restaurant.
A restaurant, right?
Where everything's dying all the time. You have to keep it alive. It is an extension of your family. Mm-hmm. And you've got produce that is withering away if it doesn't get eaten. Everything's got an expiration date on it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have people coming in, that's it. Like, you've got to figure something out.
Right.
And I just remember that time being so difficult. And so that was, the project was the project. Mm-hmm. And I did all sorts of places that are no longer here, right? We no longer have the hydrant. We no longer have the fire hydrant. We no longer have the wig. We no longer.
I bought a wig print. I bought a bunch of prints from you at the art crawl. Yes.
And we have a lot of places that I drew that we no longer have now. So that project becomes a time capsule.
Yeah.
But it also becomes, or in that moment, mm-hmm. it became a way, like a little way for one human to try and help out other humans that reminded her of her dad in that moment. And that was that brought me just a little bit of joy during a time where I I had a 1.5-year-old mm-hmm. and I was still having to teach online, mm-hmm. still having to work, right?
Yep.
No childcare, the whole thing.
Right.
And it was hard for everybody. But when you can find those little slivers of joy, like that was one for them. So that project, Drawn in Soda City, it started out as just 100 days, but I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I still do that project. I'm doing it every day. Sometimes I post, sometimes I don't, but it's one of those things that I use in my studio practice to sort of gear me up for my next job or next lecture, thing that I'm going to write or create. And it's just part of my ritual for my practice now.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's how I found you for the first time, was a Drawn Daily.
Oh,
yeah. That's how I met you the first time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
And now I have the prints that I bought from you earlier this year. They were all like significant. So one was the Warmouth.
Yep.
And the Warmouth has been, it was like, I went there when they'd been open 2 days. Like, it just has a lot of significance for me. One was the wig, naturally.
Yes.
One was Ophidian, because that's where I get my tattoos. And the most important one was the art museum, because my dad passed away 11 years ago and he used to drive up here when I was in college and take me to the art museum because he was retired and he had a flexible schedule and he'd find out when I wasn't at school and like they're in my hallway, like when I walk in.
Love it.
It's also things like that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how we touch other people. That just brings me so much joy. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sitting through tech support. Thanks for answering 2 questions out of the 10 that we sent you. That's okay.
It's okay. Right?
We're doing great. We're doing great.
All right, Eva, we did it. We had our first guest.
We did it.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
That was great. I loved it. And we made it 2 parts because that conversation,
it was just too good to cut.
I mean, honestly, if she didn't have to leave, I would have kept going.
Right. Could you imagine if we'd asked all the questions?
We asked too.
Oh my gosh.
Here we go.
Anyways, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you again, Meena, for being on.
Yes. And then next week, we will be having another guest on here. It's not very often as a freelancer that you get to invite on one of your former bosses.
I probably will not be doing that, but you do you, Boo Bear.
But we will be having Heather Price from Chernoff Newman. She is the president of client engagement and marketing. And we'll be having her on. I worked with her for 10 years and it's pretty awesome. She was also one of the creative directors when I was there, and pretty awesome having a female creative director. We'll get all into that next week when she's on.
Yeah.
So That's it. Thanks for listening,
Thanks
everyone.
for listening, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Ghost Boss Podcast. And also, please like and review us on your favorite podcast app.